I think when there's a lot of stress in somebody's life, I think he will start to question, to ask certain things about the why and the how. I think in the beginning of my life I went through a lot of very extreme situations, like I was born in this Japanese concentration camp, and then I moved to a castle in Holland, and then moved back to colonial Indonesia where there was a civil war going on. And so this moving back and forth between war and luxurious surroundings is very extreme and very stressful. And I think that what happens is that it leaves you really with a feeling of that you're losing all the time. So you are somewhere and then you lose it again, and then you go somewhere else and you make friends, you make a life, and then again you lose it. And especially because in the wartime everything is very uncertain. And therefore I think I really wanted to get deeper into a personal feeling of mending that loss, kind of finding again a home or a place where I would belong. I got into various philosophies, mainly the Taoism, which I really enjoyed, and especially because it's very simple. It's very simple and it's very natural. It has to do with nature, like here, and being in a natural surrounding, which suited me very well. In the meanwhile, my family came from a theosophical background, and so my mother was very much a friend and into Jiddu Krishnamurti, who was a big messiah figure, let's say, at the beginning of the century.
What we are trying during all these discussions and talks here is to see if we cannot radically bring about a transformation of the mind. Not accept things as they are, nor revolt against it, but to understand it, to go into it, to examine it, give your heart and your mind with everything that you have to find out, a way of living differently.
From all these sides I got, different ideas, but most of them had to do with a direct one-to-one link with the universe. Both Taoism and Krishnamurti and later on other people in my life really accentuated that aspect, that each one of us is complete and can do it, can make that link and can establish that relationship which then makes you whole. There's a famous story of a young man who was a little dumb, a little backward, and he couldn't read or write. The only thing he could do is juggle. So at a certain point, his family and the people around him got kind of tired of him and thought they should put him in a monastery. So he goes into a monastery, and the other monks, they're always reading the Bible, and they're very learned, and they always tease him because he's so dumb and so stupid. So he gets more and more miserable. So one day he goes into the chapel of the Madonna. So he just stands and juggles in front of her, and he's crying, he's sweating, he's juggling. Anyway, the other monks see him go into the chapel, so they follow him, and they see him juggling in front of the statue. And so they think this is terrible, this is not respectful. So they want to stop him, but the minute they go forward to stop him, the statue comes down from the altar. She picks up a slip of her mantle and wipes the face of the juggler to take the tears and the sweat away from his face. The juggler, he couldn't read, he couldn't write. The only thing he knew that he had to get to the statue and offer whatever he had to offer. And he did that. And that was enough. That was just what she wanted. You can never love a philosophy. You cannot touch it, you cannot be with it. It's an intellectual love, but it's never a bodily love, But a tree, you can touch it and there's a vibration going back and forth. There's a feeling going back and forth, which you cannot describe, which you cannot put in words. It's just a feeling between the thing and you. You can touch it, you can smell it, you can hear it. It's a bodily thing, it's a bodily contact. And I think that, we made the intellectual world because we don't know how to do it. And so we're making a theory of how to do it, but the theory gets in the way in between me and the doing it. Yoga, I think, was a natural development actually, because apart from being passionately interested in finding this link with the universe, finding reality, finding my personal fulfillment with that, I was also very sportive. I liked sports a lot. I was drifting from one to the next just to find out a way of getting the body as much as possible moving in all directions. I was really looking for something that would exercise the whole body in a really nice way, and at the same time help the body to be as sensitive and as open to the force from outside. I went to India in '64 for the first time to practice yoga with Eichner, because I met him in Krishnamurti's house, and I told Krishnamurti that I wanted to become a teacher of yoga. And so he said, well, in that case you should go to the best, which is Eichner, who taught me all the asanas. He taught me the practical aspect of yoga. To learn the asanas, to learn anything, whatever, not only yoga, anything, you need to have a symbiosis of two people. One person alone cannot do that. Eichner hardly spoke English. He was really very Brahmic, very Indian, and pretty wild. A lot of energy, a lot of flying energy. And I was also with a lot of flying energy. So between these two personalities, we clashed, and at the same time, we matched very well. We were both a little bit crazy, and on the one hand, it was bad because, we banged all the time. But on the other hand, it was also like we understood each other very well. It was like two fireballs coming together. He taught me a whole yoga in 6 months. Then, of course, it took me 40 years to, to smoothen it out, the whole thing, and to make the whole movement and all the exercises the way they look now. That took a long time. Eichner was definitely a turning point in my yoga, in my perception of yoga. He taught me a very vigorous type of yoga, while before it was all very soft and very smooth and easy. Because Eichner was a man, is a man, and a male body and a female body. The female can learn from the man, but certain things you have to learn from a female. The softness and the smoothness and the roundness of the movement. You can learn better from another woman. Then I met Wanda Scaravelli, and she was also an eye-opener. She learned the postures from Eichner, and at quite an age, because she began when she was 55 years old. She was very small and thin, and quite supple, so it was not a big problem for her. But then she wanted to work also on this energy thing. For her it was also important to not only move the body, but to move the inner energy. And especially she worked a lot with the gravity and with the breathing. She was very much into the breathing also. So I got into very, very close contact with her through the piano and through living in her house for a while. It was a very intense exchange with her. And through the piano she taught me about yoga. She used to say that the music is already in the piano, and all you have to do is not impose on the piano, but you pull the music out of the piano. And in the same way, you pull the posture out of the body. The posture is in the body, and all you do is you pull it out of it. was interested in many philosophies. I went through them, I took what I wanted, and then I left them to go somewhere else. I always say you have to be like a pirate. You have to go into a ship, get the gold, and get out of it again. So I take what I can, from a movie or from a book or from a philosophy or from anything, and then I come out again. You have to keep moving. I practice head and shoulder bends every afternoon, and I get bored because there you are, 20 minutes on your head. So I sometimes watch television, and the time that a couple of years ago I watched television, and the only program which was not utterly boring was Zorro with Douglas Fairbanks. I'd never heard of the name before. And so I watched it, and you have to get used to 1920s movies. It's silent, it's a lot of vaudeville action, a lot of body language. It's kind of, slightly corny, from our point of view sometimes. So I had to sort of watch it a couple of times, and I really zoomed in on him and on the way he moved. And then I got very hot inside, and I thought, now I'm onto something that I can really use, this is revolutionary. I began to really study the way he moved. And I realized that he was doing a lot of gymnastics, a lot of martial arts. So he was looking all the time for movement. And I've never seen those movements anywhere. And I'm thrilled to see them, because my passion is the body. He said that he had learned to empty his mind and to project his mind outside his body. The brain and the movement, they go together at the same time. I think what Douglas Fairbanks learned to do, and what I have learned to do also, seeing him and then practicing on myself, is to move the visualization, to move the image a fraction of a second before you actually move the body. So the projection that you make of the movement is a little bit faster than the body, and so it pulls the body. And therefore it's not pushing the body through a movement, but it's allowing the body to be pulled by the image. So once I got into this kind of movement, people noticed it, that my yoga was changing. Everything, every leaf that falls is a teacher. Every movie you see is a teacher. Every song you hear is a teacher. Every bird that flies is a teacher. But it depends on you with what kind of eyes you're looking at. If you're looking with eyes that are fresh and new and seeing everything as an ephemeral happening, then everything is a teacher. I think that as human beings, our first and maybe the only function we have is as perceivers. And so if the body is not sensitive, if the body is a little bit dull, then you're missing out on a lot of things, because the body does not receive well. It's like the eyes and the ears are kind of cloudy, and so you don't get a good view of what's happening outside. And so the asanas in the first place are to purify the body, to clean the body out and to make it a very sensitive and intelligent organ of perception. We live in a society that always looks for a reward. You never do something just for the fun of doing it or for the sake of just doing it. We're always doing it with a goal in mind, and the goal is always somewhere in the future, and the goal is always, hopefully, brighter than the present. So we always work backwards, away from a problem, or forwards towards a reward. And therefore we never come to a position of standstill. The position of standstill only happens when you're paying total attention in the moment. The main focus in practicing the asanas is to pay attention. And this attention means that there's no time involved, there's no future involved, there's no reward involved, and there's no retreating involved. It's just to be in that present moment. The perfection is when you do something completely without looking over the horizon. So when you are completely in the moment. Perfection is not that you do something technically perfect. It doesn't have to be technically perfect. Perfection is when your mind and your heart fill the body completely in the pose, in the asana. Everything we do, including yoga, including any philosophy or practice, is only a fragment. But what is important and what has been the main thing in my life is the whole. To be with the whole and not to be only with a fragment of it. And so yoga is good. It's healthy, it's fun, it's good, it's a good tool. But if you think that the tool is the whole thing, then I think you are on the wrong track, because you get lost in the tool and you lose all this. I'm not a yogi. If you call yourself a yogi, you're again compartmentalizing, you're again fragmenting. Nobody is born a yogi. We are born babies, human babies. If I say I'm a yogi, with the word comes a whole bag of rules and regulations. Yogis don't drink wine, yogis don't go to cowboy bars, yogis do this. And a lot of yoga teachers, they act the doctor even if they don't know a shit about anything. They just say, oh, come to me and I'll cure you of anything. Snake oil peddlers, you know? They cure you of anything. From menopause to headaches to broken marriages to anything else you want, you get cured. Just be honest. Don't pretend to be something else than what you are. We are not doctors and lawyers and this and that and the other. We are just dumb yoga teachers, you know. Make the pelvis long. That's it. And then you pull up from this part here between the shoulder blades, but without pushing too much forward there, because otherwise you're going to hang. Bring the pelvis back to me, back to me, back to me as you go down. You cannot help another. You cannot teach another. You cannot be an example either, because if you are an example, then again it's something that you are doing. I mean, if you have a sunflower is a sunflower, but going near the sunflower makes you joyous. Not because the sunflower wants to be an example for you. You know what I mean? Sunflower is just a sunflower, but being there makes you feel happy because it's a happy flower. You look around and there's so many gurus. People are desperately looking for something or somebody to tell them how to live. We never had that one-to-one relationship with life. We always go somewhere else and we ask the other person to describe life to us and to tell us how to live. And so we always get a glimpse of the universe secondhand through the other person. And I was saying before, each one of us is complete. The way the chipmunk is complete. The chipmunk is totally complete. He's completely there. Everybody is responsible for himself. Nobody is responsible for anybody else. What we were saying in the woods, that each human being is born complete. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we are all complete. And so each one of us has a complete link to the universe. It's my responsibility to take care of my link. I cannot do it for another person. There you are back again in the teaching, that you cannot be a teacher. A teacher-student relationship is a phantom relationship. It's not a real one. It's a phantom one. Because in reality there are no teachers and there are no students. It's life itself is the teacher. it.